Welcome to a new series of The Ferret. We've come to the millionaire's playground on the south coast of England to sort out a £1 million problem. But don't be embarrassed about calling us on 02920 590000 with problems of a more modest nature. We're still prepared to take them on. But first, let's see what sailed in for the show tonight. A scary M4 moment for Dexter in Mum's second-hand car. A bizarre moment for Chris on the chip run, going round a Blackwood roundabout. And a nasty moment for Alison, billed for someone else's spending. Over there is £1 million worth of boat. But in the 18 months since a man from Brecon bought it, it's spent more time in the boatyard here on the south coast of England than in just 5 times he's actually managed to go to sea. No wonder, with mounting frustration, he came to the Ferret. The fly fishing lake by his home at Craddock near Brecon is one of Paul Burgess's enthusiasms. He'd built up a multi-million-pound publishing and internet business. Now, though, he's got the taste for boats a bit bigger than this one for his next venture.
It was a project with a boat, a project to film the entire Welsh coast and to launch an internet site based on that.
Here's the vessel, a 57-foot yacht built in Taiwan and fitted out at a specialist boatyard with some of the most sophisticated high-tech equipment anyone could want on board.
Everything from satellite television with 4 televisions and things like that.
And not just a bunk in the forecastle?
No, a queen-size bed, double beds and 2 double beds and a computer room, video studio.
Of course, boats like this, brand new, don't come cheap.
Boats are expensive. This one was almost £1 million. It was 940,000.
But Paul was astonished at the number of faults in the vessel from Tarquin Boat Company. An expert survey report filled 14 pages.
What went wrong was it was delivered on December the 4th, 2005, and normally one goes through a little bit of debugging for a month or so. And basically what went wrong is 17 months later, I haven't been able to use it properly.
When the vessel was hoisted ashore and put on a dockside support, cracks appeared on the keel under the hull.
A non-structural filler. They'd put over the original keel, they'd put a white powder filler and then a millimetre of glass over that. Now,
don't you find it astonishing?
I do.
That £1 million boat
I do, yes.
has the keel patched up with filler?
Yeah, I do.
On the maiden voyage to Swansea, there were alarming signs that the 2 powerful engines were not properly bolted down.
When we got to Swansea, we discovered that the thrust of the 2 700 horsepower engines wasn't really properly connected to the boat and had come loose. And so
not very healthy.
No, it wasn't. So the net effect of it all was that I couldn't use the boat, and it was just a continual thing. And Tarquin Furnace came to repair that, and so on. And then, having got rid of that major problem, we had other problems, such as the water being directed into the engine room, which caused other problems.
That shouldn't happen with a boat.
No, of course not. No, it shouldn't. And but the net effect was that we haven't been able to use the boat properly. We had 4 or 5 journeys in her, but all of which proved very problematic in the end.
As Paul's struggle to get it all sorted went on for month after month, his coastal internet site dream was on hold.
It became a nightmare. That's the only word for it. It became an absolute nightmare.
An expensive nightmare.
Very.
I mean, you spent £1 million on the boat.
There's more than that. There's quite a lot of expenses to involved in this. Well over 100,000 in expenses.
When the boatyard failed to meet a promised deadline to fix the boat at Easter, Paul, deeply frustrated, called the Ferret. For what happened next, catch up with us later in the programme. Businessman Paul Burgess from Brecon wanted to set up an internet site based on the Welsh coast to be filmed and serviced at sea. He ordered a yacht filled with high-tech gear costing nearly £1 million from a yard on the Hampshire coast.
It took a year to build the boat, and so I'd waited so long for this beginning of this dream, and really it was the beginning of the destruction of the dream, that journey.
There were a lot of things wrong with the boat. The steering was faulty, and he was shocked to discover on the maiden voyage to Swansea that the 2 powerful diesel engines were not properly mounted.
What actually happened was it came loose with an unholy bang which shuddered the entire boat, and a person on board, a lady, screamed at the time that this happened. I could hardly blame her, because the entire boat shuddered as 1,400 horsepower basically came loose.
Since he took delivery last year, the vessel's only been at sea 5 times and has spent most of its time back at the dockyard. Last month, Paul asked his expert to make another survey. Well, the yacht surveyor, Mr. Bird, was back at the harbour last month to take a second look at the vessel. And his new report is less than the 14 pages of the first one, but still has over 30 points of criticism. And his conclusion is really damning. Paul had spent months trying to get his £1 million dream back on course, but he felt he was getting nowhere. It was then he had what we call that Ferret moment.
My correspondence with Tarquin amounts to some 530 letters and emails over the 16-month period. And obviously, when you're doing that on a brand new boat you spent this money on, which you borrowed heavily for, you can't with a boat just go at nobody. Well, very few people can do that. And it's part of a complete retirement business project that I had planned. One can't do that without quite a lot of animosity building, because you're not getting satisfaction. And no matter how you go on, the fact is you couldn't use the boat. So I reached the point where I wrote and asked Tony Chappell, who was the head of Tarquin, to take the boat back.
Paul had traded in his old boat worth nearly £300,000, so apart from his rowing boat, he was grounded for months.
They haven't sold it, and because I believe they priced it too high, but it was their property. They part exchanged it, and that was a good boat. I mean, very well maintained, good boat. We approached Tarquin Boat Company here in Emsworth with Paul Burgess's complaints, and they replied through a solicitor. I'll quote their letter. We've advised our client that since this matter may yet end in litigation, there's absolutely no question of there being any discourse on the matter with anyone other than Mr. Burgess or his proper representatives. And indeed, that communication with you or your company in relation to issues that may yet be the subject of court hearings is wholly inappropriate. But behind the scenes, the lawyers were finally talking turkey to Paul. This month, he reached an open and honourable agreement with the boatyard. At long last, I had a direct meeting with Mr. Chappell of Tarquin. It was a very nice meeting, actually. There was no raised voices, very pleasant, but very businesslike. And Tarquin have agreed now, and I have to give them credit for this, they've agreed to take the boat back, give me a refund, plus a substantial part of my expenses. Not all, but then I didn't ask for all. I asked for a substantial part to be reasonable, and to take my old boat back, but allow for depreciation. So in other words, to roll back the situation to what I was. So am I right in supposing that the Ferret has actually helped you get over £1 million back? You are right, yes. Big one, but yes, that's correct. Yes. That's a record for us. Is it? Good. It's a record for me as well. Well, I'm very pleased that we've done it for you, Paul. Thank you. And as I write this script, it's actually sinking in. It's something for the Ferret to celebrate. I think I would have to raise a glass one day when this is over to the Ferret and say, thank you for getting the £1 million back. Time for the Ferret to sail off into the blue tonight. Don't worry, you can still send us an SOS on 02920 590000. An email will do. Can't guarantee to get you £1 million every time, though. From Emsworth Harbour in Hampshire. Good night.